Let's speak now to the South African Policing Union's spokesperson, Lesiba Thobakgale, about some of their expectations of the new acting police minister and what they think his priorities should be. Dr. Thobakgale, thank you so much for joining us this morning. So as SAPU, what do you believe should be the top priorities for Cachalia as he assumes the role of acting police minister?
Thank you for having us. Greetings to your viewers. As SAPU, we clearly welcome Minister Cachalia in this regard because he is the first academia that we had as a minister within SAPS in this regard. And we clearly hope that he will uphold his profession clearly in dealing with issues within SAPS. And as a union, we will clearly give him our support, like we always give support to the ministers who come into SAPS. And as he's coming on at dawn where there is a commission of inquiry to look into allegations that were made on policing, and we hope that he would not create any parallel processes, but he will allow the commission to do its work accordingly. Further to that, we believe that he must focus on rooting out corruption in and even outside, because we know the repercussions of corruption in this country. Indeed, it is letting the country down. We hope that he will take a firm stand to root out corruption in SAPS and even in the society as whole in this regard. It is also important that he unite the leadership of SAPS. The leadership of SAPS, it is divided, and we hope that he will not belong to any form of factions, but what he will do, he will take everyone and bring unity amongst them, because if management is divided, then it clearly means that things will not go right. So we hope that he will come with his expertise, assist in uniting the leadership of SAPS in this regard, because that unity, it is quite important for us to move forward. And we also hope that the issue of the separation of power, I mean, he's a professor, and like we said, he is an academia, that he will clearly be able to understand the issue of the separation of powers between the powers of the National Commissioner and the powers of himself as the acting minister in this regard, because that is quite important, because the separation of powers, if it is not indeed outlined and followed accordingly, that is where we start to see political interference coming through. We have made a lot of issues, I mean, that affect our members in Parliament, and even we've been raising them, that affect the issues of the upward mobility of our members in terms of the promotion policy. We believe that he will be able to assist SAPS in making sure that the issue of the promotion policy, it is finalized, so that even the members who have, went and studied further, they would be able to be recognized in SAPS, because now when you look in the current recruitment of the 5,500, SAPS received over 1 million applications, and there's a lot of professional, a lot of graduates there, and even in SAPS there are a lot of graduates. So SAPS should be in terms of the world standards when it comes to the conditions of service, when it comes to the promotions, when it comes to the issues of salaries, so that it can remain to be a professionalized organization in this regard. We hope that the minister, as a professional himself, he will see that and he will be able to make sure that comes to the forth. And we are a stakeholder in SAPS. We are also hoping and calling on him to say that after he met with the National Commissioner, he must also meet with the unions that are organizing in SAPS, so that we can be able to really also brief him of what we know in terms of SAPS and what needs to be done as a stakeholder who indeed have the best interests of SAPS and also the best interests of the country at heart in this regard.
Certainly.
So we are quite we are quite, expecting a lot out of him, but we will give him our support. I think that is quite important.
And
to say, as he is coming in, we will give him our support,
your full support
in this regard.
Mr. Thobakgale, I mean, you mentioned quite extensively the issue of him being the first candidate of academia into this role of being the Minister of Police or acting police minister. What value do you really think this brings, especially given the numerous allegations and the challenges that are facing SAPS? What actions do you think he needs to take which are necessary to restore the confidence in the police?
The value that he should bring, that we expect him to bring, and we are hopeful that he will clearly bring, it is on those issues that really affect the members of SAPS, more especially those who are on the lower ground. Like we mentioned, the issues of, the issues of promotions and so on. I mean, you've got a social worker who gets to be recruited in SAPS, and that social worker cannot be retained because they are not able to practice as professionals. We hope that he will be able to give us a solution and agree with us on the basis that the professionals of employee health and wellness, they should be allowed to practice as professionals, so that SAPS can be able indeed to retain professionals. He would be able to recognize the members who have studied, the members who went further and, took efforts for them to empower themselves, for them to be indeed recognized in SAPS, so that they could be retained. Because the problem of retention, it also goes to where members academics, when it comes to what they've achieved academically, is not recognized. So that is quite a problem. So we hope him being a professional or an academia himself, he will be able to play that role on the conditions of service, to improve them, to look at what needs to be done in order to make sure that the police officers, more especially members on the ground roots level, are also taken care of. But moreover, he will be able to, we hope there's an issue of restructuring, which is quite important in this regard, to say that he will be able to fulfill, to see it coming into operation fully so. Because when we signed an agreement in 2020, the SSBC agreement, one of 2020, the main purpose of that agreement was to take more resources that are based at the national office for them to go on the ground level, because that is where policing is happening. So we hope that as restructuring has been concluded, and we went through other processes that relates to restructuring, that he will also be able to give the line of march, indeed, as a professor, to say this is what needs to happen, so that the ground, at the ground roots level, there is no starving of members there, so that we can have more members who are there indeed to make sure that policing continues to happen. And also dealing with the issues of resources, fighting for the budget at the cabinet level, and also dealing with the issues of police killings. I mean, we've been on record about the issues of police killings, and we haven't seen anything happening in Parliament, more especially when it comes to the amendment of the law in order to make sure that police killings indeed gets to be declared as treason. We hope that as he's coming through, I mean, he has been, exposed to the safety and security for the longest time now, that he would be able indeed to make sure that we are getting a solution to stop and the issue of police killings in this country at large.
You mentioned a lot of the structural challenges that exist within SAPS, and Minister Cachalia has now also spoken out against the shoot-to-kill policy by officers when met up with confrontation with criminals. What's SAPU's standpoint on that, given that KZN especially is seemingly one province that has taken that approach with 187 people killed in the last financial year? What's your take on the minister's stance when it comes to the shoot-to-kill policy?
I think we should not demonize the police work. Police officers, when they go to the college, they get to be trained on the use of force. They clearly understand the Criminal Procedure Act. And where police officers' lives and the lives of the citizens are in danger, Section 49 is quite clear to what should happen, how they should use the minimum force that is reasonable under circumstances. I think we rely on the law. We really don't want to dwell on other positions. We rely on the law to say where police officers' lives are in danger, they should indeed apply the law. And further to that, anyone who faces that situation, they act accordingly within the ambits of the law. If it happens to be that there is issues that relates to the very same, IPED is there to investigate such. But at the very same breath, I think it is important to say, to also reflect on the numbers of police killings that we have seen. I mean, the previous quarter clearly reflects to us that majority of our police officers get to be targeted when they are off duty. That on its own, it really tells you are a police officer, you remain to be a target to police officers. So we clearly rely within the parameters of the law when it comes to that topic.
You mentioned that the minister is yet to meet with the unions. What role do you believe SAPU sees itself playing in supporting the broader reforms within SAPS under this new leadership? And also just given the public and political scrutiny, how will you ensure professionalism as well as being neutral in all your operations?
Yeah, I think it starts with the separation of powers. I think we are quite strong about that because it leads to, if it is not observed, it leads to political interference, which we have also been strong about it, talking about it, to say politics killed policing. So that is one of the issues that we would indeed, have conversation with him about, as it is what we expect coming through, and also to say, how do we take SAPS to the next level in making sure that the mandate of SAPS is fulfilled? How do we deal with the challenges of the budget? To say, how do we deal with the issues that affect, members on the ground? How do we deal with strengthening the relationship between the police and our communities through Community Policing Forum, which is quite important in this regard? How do we make sure that we don't happen to see this thing that is happening from time to time? Because when there's a new national commissioner, we always see that the national commissioner will come with his own people, and the ones who came with the previous national commissioner, they remain to be disgruntled. How do we really put that to an end? I mean, that is one of those inputs that will clearly, and part of the conversations that we would want to have with him the day that we meet with him as an organization, to say this indeed needs to stop, because that is what is indeed starting to cause factions within SAPS, because every national commissioner came with their own people. When they leave, everyone remains, and then they are not being utilized and so on. Then definitely they do become disgruntled. And we hope that indeed also we'll have a conversation with him about the under-resourced SAPS. When we've seen, the 5,500 posts, we hope that, because it is our view that we need to increase to the 10,000 a year when it comes to the recruitment, so that SAPS can be capacitated. When we look at our population, it's ever growing. I mean, issues of capacitating SAPS in terms of the resources and even coming to the human capital, it will be one of our top issues that we would indeed have a conversation about, and also about the status of SAPS when it comes to management, more especially when it comes to these issues of factions, which indeed are not taking SAPS forward.